Hello everyone, this is Professor Mir Shah. I welcome you all back to our video lecture based on the subject International Finance for PGDFM Semester 2 under University of Mumbai. In this video, we will be learning about the second module of International Finance. This video is the second part of Module 2. Now, in our previous video, that is part 1 of Module 2, we had already finished learning about what is foreign exchange, what is foreign exchange market, what are the factors impacting foreign exchange rate. Now, in the second part of the second module, we are going to learn about various theories under foreign exchange, which is nothing but purchasing power parity theory, the absolute version of purchasing power parity theory, the relative version of purchasing power parity theory, the interest rate parity theory, covered interest rate parity theory, and uncovered interest rate parity theory. After the end of all the theories, we will take up again some MCQ exercise, and lastly there will be a question bank which will include all the important topics that you'll have to prepare for your external examination. So without wasting time, let us see what are the topics that we need to cover up in this particular video.
Now the next important topic that we need to learn is the purchasing power parity theory. This is a very important topic. So let us see what is purchasing power parity theory. Now, internationally between 1875 and 1914, the gold standard monetary system was used to determine the exchange rates between different currency. This we have already learned in our first module under the heading Evolutions of International Monetary System. Under the system, the government of a country allowed its currency to be freely converted into fixed amount of gold. Theoretically, the exchange rate determination was explained with the help of the gold standard theory. After the World War I, gold parities and free movement of gold stopped, and the gold standard was replaced by the paper currency standard. The mint power of exchange lost significance in the exchange market. Hence, to explain this phenomena and the problem of determination of the equilibrium rate of exchange between inconvertible paper currency, the purchasing power parity theory was developed by Gustav Cassel. The purchasing power parity theory basically explains the determination of long-term equilibrium exchange rates based on the relative price level of two countries. The PPP theory is based on the law of one price, which says in absence of transaction cost, the official trade barriers, identical goods will have the same price in different markets when the prices are expressed in the same currency. Now let us explain first what is the law of one price. The law of one price explains that identical goods should be sold for the same price in two separate markets. The assumption of law of one price are: number one, movement of goods. The law of one price assumes that there is no restriction on the movement of goods between countries. That is, it is possible to buy goods in one market and sell them in another. This implies that there is no ban on export or import or in the form of quotas in international trade. Next is the no transportation cost. Law of one price would hold perfectly only if there is no transportation cost involved. Next is no transaction cost. This law assumes that There are no transaction costs involved in buying and selling of goods. Next is no tariffs. The existence of tariff does not hold good for the law of one price, which requires the absence to hold perfectly. In simple terms, law of one price is nothing but it states that if product X, which is an identical good to product Y, which is sold into different markets, the price of those two products should be same. But it assumes that there is movement of goods, but it assumes that there is movement of goods, there is no transportation cost, no transaction cost, and no tariffs. The law of one price is just another way of stating purchase power parity. However, the purchase power parity explicitly mentions about exchange rates, whereas the law of one price is applicable even within two markets of the same country. Now, in order to understand purchasing power parity in very simple terms, let us take an example. Let's say we have, instead of having individual product, we have basket of product. We have two identical basket of product in which the identical goods are available. The first basket is from India and the second basket is from USA. In India, the entire basket cost rupees 100, whereas in USA it cost $4. Now, in order to find the exchange rate between the two countries, according to the purchasing power parity theory, exchange rate is determined as follows. Rate is equal to the home currency, that was 100, divided by the US, which is 4. Therefore, the rate came up to be 25. Therefore, the exchange rate is $1 is equal to 25 rupees. So this is in simple the meaning of purchasing power parity theory, where we don't compare individual product but we compare basket of products or multiple products. Now, in order to understand this theory, let us go through the theoretical part of purchasing power parity theory. Now, the big idea underlying the PPP theory is that foreign exchange is demanded by the nationals of a country because it has the power to command goods in the foreign country. When the domestic currency of a nation is exchanged for foreign currency, the domestic purchasing power is exchanged for purchasing the foreign power. Therefore, the main factors determining the exchange rate is the relative purchasing power of the two currencies. Thus, the equilibrium rate of exchange should be such that the exchange of currency would involve the exchange of equal amounts of purchasing power. Hence, it is the parity of the purchasing power of the currencies which determines the exchange rate. The theory states that the rate of exchange between two currencies will be in equilibrium when it equals the ratio of price level in the two countries expressed in terms of their respective currencies. The rate of exchange between the currencies of two countries is determined by their relative price levels. Now, the PPP theory is based on few assumptions which are as follows. Number one, there are no trade barriers between countries. Second, the price index for each of the two countries must comprise the same basket of goods, as I have mentioned it earlier itself. Okay, when we are determining the exchange rate based on PPP theory, we don't consider individual product, but we consider basket of goods. The concerned goods in the two countries must be identical in every respect. Next, all the prices should be indexed to the same year. The goods should be of the same year. Okay. Next, the law of one price prevails, that is, identical goods should sell for the same price in two different countries at the same time. Okay, now there is a demand for foreign currency by the people because of its purchasing power ability in its own nation. Thus, when domestic currency is exchanged for any foreign currency, one can say that domestic purchasing is being exchanged for purchasing power, as it can buy some amount of goods and services in the domestic country. This exchange of purchasing power takes place when the purchasing power of two currencies nations get equalized. Thus, the purchasing power of the two currencies determines the exchange rate. Now, the exchange rate under this theory is in equilibrium when their domestic purchasing power at that rate of exchange are equivalent. Let us take an example. Suppose certain bundle of goods and services in USA cost $20 and the same bundle in India costs rupees 900. Then the exchange rate between US dollar and Indian rupees is $1 is equal to 45. Okay, so again, using the same concept that I showed you earlier, the home currency that was 900 rupees, when you divide it by USD, which is 20, we get $1 is equal to rupees 45. Because this is the exchange rate at which the parity between the purchasing power of two different nations is maintained, a change in the purchasing power of any currency will also reflect in the exchange rates. Hence, under this theory, domestic purchasing power determines the external value of its currency to that of another currency. Now, there are two versions under purchasing power parity theory. Number one is known as the absolute version. Second, it is known as the relative version. So now let us understand each type one by one. First is the absolute version of purchasing power parity theory. According to the absolute version of the purchasing power parity theory, the identical baskets of goods in two different countries must sell for the same price when expressed in the same currency. In other words, the exchange rate between the currencies of two different countries is decided by their respective purchasing power. For example, if a basket of commodities is sold for 140 rupees in India and the same basket of identical commodity sells at $2 in USA, then the exchange rate expressed as price of $1 in terms of rupees will be rupees 140 is equal to $2 or rupees 70 is equal to $1. Now the exchange rate is equal to the ratio of price index of the basket of commodities in home market to the price index of the basket of commodities in foreign market. So this is what was explained earlier also, that the basket of commodity in home market, the price index of which will be equal to the basket of commodities in foreign market. This can be expressed as R is equal to P divided by P star, where R is equal to the exchange rate defined as domestic currency units per unit of foreign currency. P stands for price index of a basket of goods expressed in the home country expressed in domestic currency, say India and the rupee respectively. And P star is equal to the price index of an identical basket of goods in a foreign country expressed in the foreign currency, say USA and the dollar respectively. So that's the formula that we had applied. So the exchange rate is nothing but it is the ratio of the price of home currency upon the price of the foreign country. Now, taking the earlier example, we can express the rate of exchange as rate is equal to the rate in domestic country was 140 and that in foreign was $2. So it is 140 divided by 2. So the rate we came up to was rupees 70. Therefore $1 is equal to rupees 70 is the exchange rate. From this explanation, it follows that the primary factors determining the exchange rate between two currencies is the relative purchasing power of the two currencies in their respective domestic markets. Therefore, changes in the price level in either of both the countries will affect the exchange rate. Now, if there is inflation in India, now we take another example stating that if there is an inflation in India with no price change in USA, then the rupee will depreciate against the dollar. Let us say that now the basket of commodities in India, which was costing earlier 140, because of inflation in India, the cost has risen to 150 rupees instead of 140. Now, with no price changes in USA didn't incur any inflation. So the new exchange rate now will be same formula, R is equal to P upon P star, where P is the domestic currency which is costing to 150 rupees divided by the foreign rate. There the rate is still the same, that is $2. So the new exchange rate will now be 75, that is $1 is equal to rupees 75. So here in this case the rupee has depreciated against the dollar. Previously the rate was $1 is equal to 70, but because of inflation in India, the rate has now the new rate has come up to be $1 is equal to 75. Thus, inflation, as we have learned earlier, is a factor which influences the foreign exchange rate. Can be proved in this order also. Now, it will now require more rupees to purchase 1 unit of dollar. Previously, you were getting $1 for 70 rupees. Now, you'll have to pay 5 rupees extra. That is 75 rupees for a dollar. Now consider another variation in this. Now if the price level in India falls with no change in the price level in USA, the rupee will appreciate in terms of dollars. On the other hand, if there is a price rise in USA with no price change in India, then again rupee will appreciate in terms of dollars. Now let us explain this. Let us say that after 1 year, the basket of commodities in USA cost $3 instead of $2. With no price change in India, now the new exchange rate will be as follows. Rate is equal to 150. Because of inflation, the rate had become 150. So now after that there has been no change in the price, so the rate in domestic is 150. However, the rate in US has increased to $3, so we'll divide it by 3. So here the new rate what we have come across is 50, that is $1 is equal to 50. In this case, the Indian rupee has appreciated in terms of the dollars. This is the meaning of absolute version of purchasing power parity theory. Now let us go through the criticism against the absolute version of purchasing power parity theory. Number 1, the absolute version measures the absolute levels of internal prices. It is widely accepted that the purchasing power of money cannot be measured in absolute terms. Second, the goods produced and demanded in the two different countries cannot be of the same kind and quality, and therefore cannot be compared in terms of their prices. The quality and quantity are the two things which are very difficult to compare. Countries which are highly developed cannot compare their products and the quality of their products to a country which is underdeveloped or developing. The selection of the basket of commodities may not be done objectively. It is difficult to decide which goods to include and which not. Now, there are several difficulties involved in compilation of price index numbers. According to the theory, there is a functional relationship between the purchasing power of the currencies of two countries and their exchange rate. In reality, there is no such direct and precise link between the two. There are many factors apart from the purchasing power of currency, such as the tariff, speculation, capital flow, non-tariff barriers, which significantly affects the rate of exchange. Lastly, the capital account transactions are not taken in account while determining the exchange rate. This was the absolute version of purchasing power parity theory. Now we jump on to the next version, that is the relative version of purchasing power parity theory. Now, in the relative version, the method of calculating the current equilibrium exchange rate is different from that used in the absolute version. The relative version of PPP theory is propounded by Castle as a mean for measuring the changes in equilibrium exchange rate. As compared to the absolute version, it brings out the relationship between changes in internal purchasing power and changes in exchange rates. The relative version of PPP theory states that changes in the equilibrium rate of exchange between two currencies will be governed by the changes in the ratio of their respective purchasing power. Now, this is a different version, a different way of calculating under PPP theory. Here, some past exchange rate is assumed to be the equilibrium exchange rate and is adopted as the base rate. Any change in the internal purchasing power can be measured by the changes in the indices of domestic prices of the countries concerned. So here the only thing which you have to remember is the under relative version, the indices of prices are considered and 1 year has been taken as the base year. Since according to the PPP theory, the exchange rate between the domestic and foreign currency is determined by the internal purchasing power. Any change in internal purchasing power will cause the earlier equilibrium exchange rate to change. According to the relative version, the exchange rate will adjust by the amount of inflation differential between the two countries. The primary focus of relative version is the comparison between the past, that is the base year, the base rate, equilibrium exchange rate with the current equilibrium exchange. So here a comparison has to be made between the base year rate with the current year exchange rate. The theory concludes that the changes between the two equilibrium rate is primarily due to the changes in the internal purchasing power of the two currencies over a period of time. The current equilibrium rate is calculated by taking into account the shift in price level in the two countries. It is denoted by the following formula. R1 is equal to RO multiplied by PH1 upon PH0 divided by PF1 upon PF0. Now this formula consists of where R1 denotes the current equilibrium exchange rate as the price of the exchange currency in terms of domestic currency. R0 is denoted R0 is equal to the equilibrium exchange rate in the base period. PH1 is equal to the price index in the home country in the current year. PH0 is equal to price index in the home country in the base year. PF1 is equal to price index in the foreign country in the current year. PF0 is equal to the price index in the foreign country in the base year. Now we can understand that with the help of the following example. Let us assume that the exchange rate as the price of the foreign currency, that is dollar, in terms of domestic currency, that is rupees, in the base year, let us take as 2011, was $1 is equal to rupees 60. So the base year is 2011 and the base rate is given as $1 is equal to rupees 60. Let us assume that in the base year the price indices in both the countries were 100, that is PH0 and PF0 both are 100. In the year 2018 the price in the home country, that is India, has risen to 180 and that in the foreign country USA has risen to 150. So these are the current price indices. So using this information, according to relative version of purchasing power parity theory, exchange rate can be determined using the previous formula as R1 is equal to R0 into PH1 upon PH0 divided by PF1 divided upon PF0. Using the data, we can substitute in the following manner, that R1 is equal to the base rate, which is $1 is 60, into PH1, that is price in the home country, which is the current price, which is 180, divided by price in the base, which was 100, divided by price of foreign country in the current year, which is 150, and price in the foreign country at the base, which was 100. Solving or substitution the value, we can further solve it as 60 into 180 upon 100. The reciprocal of division will become 100 upon 150. Now cross multiplying the value, we get it as 60 into 1.2, which is equal to 70. Therefore the new exchange rate is $1 is equal to 72 rupees. Now the current exchange rate of $1 equal to 72 indicates a change from the base year exchange rate of $1 is equal to 60. This change, according to the relative version of PPP theory, is due to inflation in the two countries concerned. The exchange rate changes between two periods are attributed to the internal inflation rates in the country. Thus, the comparative inflation rate in the two countries will determine how much the exchange rate will change between the two time period. Thus, interest and inflation, these are the two factors that really affects the exchange rate. Now let us go through the critics for relative version of PPP theory. Number one, this version of theory suffers from the same drawbacks as the absolute version in that it assumes free trade, but in reality it is not possible. According to the relative version, there must be a known equilibrium exchange rate in the base year, but in reality it is difficult to ascertain the particular rate which actually prevailed between the currencies as the equilibrium rate. The new or current rate would represent the equilibrium rate at purchasing power parity only if economic conditions have remained unchanged between the two periods being considered. This is really not possible. Now, the theory takes into consideration only those goods that are internationally traded between countries, whereas price indices are calculated on the basis of both internationally traded and domestically traded commodities. The theory assumes that the basket of commodities are similar in both countries. This assumption is not feasible as geographically specialization is the basis of international trade. Different trading countries may not produce similar products. Prices of all commodities do not change uniformly. Under such condition, no simple comparison can be made between the price changes in different countries. The another criticism for relative version was that the theory does not specify which type of price index should be considered, that is, wholesale or consumer price index. Besides, it is practically not possible to compare price indices of different countries as they may be calculated using different methodology. Comparing them may not give us the true purchasing power parity. Next, the theory does not take into account the effect of capital account transaction on the determination of exchange rates and only focuses on current account transaction. In reality, the movement of capital makes significant impact on the exchange rate. And lastly, the theory assumes that changes in price level could bring about changes in the exchange rates, not vice versa. In reality, empirical evidence has shown that exchange has an impact on general internal price level. An appreciation in the value of foreign currency makes import more expensive, and if such imports are necessities with inelastic demand like crude oil, then they can result in inflation in the home country. With this, the relative version of PPP theory ends. Now, to conclude, despite these criticisms, the theory focuses on the following major points. It tries to establish a relationship between domestic price level and exchange rate. The theory explains the nature of trade as well as considers the balance of payment of a nation. Thus, Gustav Castle attempt to explain the exchange rate determination based on domestic price indices was very unique attempt. Though the two versions of PPP theory suffered from several drawbacks, the theory continues to remain the only explanation of long-term exchange rates and has been used as a basis for framing trade policies. With this, the purchasing power parity theory comes to an end. Now the next topic that we need to learn about is interest rate parity theory. Let us see what do we actually mean by the interest rate parity theory. Now the interest rate parity theory is used to find out the relationship between the spot exchange rate and a corresponding forward exchange rate of currency. It is a theory in which the interest rate differential between the two countries remains equal to the differential calculated by using spot exchange rate and forward exchange rate technique. Interest rate parity connects interest, foreign exchange rates and forward exchange rates. It plays a crucial role in forex market. According to this theory, the differential in the interest rate between two currencies will be reflected in the discount of premium for the forward exchange rate if there is no arbitrage. Now, arbitrage is the activity of buying shares or currency in one financial market and selling it at a profit in another market. This we will learn much in detail in the next module. Now, the determination of exchange rate in the forward market finds an important place in the theory of interest rate parity. According to interest rate parity theory, equilibrium is achieved when differential in the forward exchange rate is near about equal to the differential in the interest rate. Now this is a very important point. According to this theory, it states that the differential in interest rate should approximately be equal to the forward exchange rate. Forward rate always differs from the spot exchange rate by an amount which represents differences in the interest rate. Under this theory, the currency of a country with a low interest rate will be at the forward premium in relation to a currency of a country with an interest rate higher as compared to the others. Now, in order to understand interest rate parity theory in simple terms, let us take an example. Let's say you have a specific amount of wealth with you and you want to invest that under a fixed deposit. Let's say you have two options. Number one, invest in US where the interest rate is at the rate of 6%, or invest in India where the interest rate is at 8%. Now as per the normal the condition, it is always preferred to invest in a country having higher rate of interest and borrow from a country which has a lower rate of interest. However, according to the interest rate parity theory, it states that the return on investment, whether you invest in USA or you invest in India, final return on investment of USA will be equal to the final return on investment in India. So it does not matter wherever you invest, you will get the same rate on, or you'll get the same return on investment. This in short is known as the interest rate parity theory. This can be better understood with the following videos.
Okay, now to understand the interest rate parity theory, a formula has been noted down. But before going through the formula, let us note down few important points which are mentioned under the interest rate parity theory. Number one, the interest rate parity theory states that the interest rate between two countries will have an impact on the foreign exchange rate. Okay, in other words, if we compare India and US, the interest rate prevailing, if we compare India and US, the interest rate prevailing in India and US will have an impact on the foreign exchange rate between them. That's the very first point which the interest rate parity theory states. Second, the interest rate parity theory states that the interest rate differential will always be equal to forward premium or discount. Now this is the very important point. IRP states that the interest rate differential will always be equal to or approximate be equal to the forward premium or discount. It means no matter whatever will be the rate of interest prevailing in two different countries, you invest in either of the company, the final result will be the same, the final return will be the same. It means that It means that under interest rate parity theory, the investor does not get an arbitrage opportunity. It cannot obtain arbitrage gain. So that's a very important point mentioned under the theory. And why does this happen is based on the third point, that is the currency whose interest rate is higher, okay, that currency will usually go into forward discount, and currency whose interest rate is lower will usually go under forward premium. So this nullifies the effect, and at the end, the final return what you'll obtain from either countries, that will come to the same state. So these are the 3 points which the interest rate parity theory states. Number one, the interest rate will always impact foreign exchange rate. Second, the interest rate differential will always be equal or approximate be equal to the forward premium or the discount. And third, currencies whose interest rate is higher, they usually go under forward discount, and currency whose interest rate is lower will usually go under forward premium. So the impact of this nullifies the effect of any arbitrage gain. Now, when we come to the formula, the formula stated that 1 plus RH upon 1 plus RF should be equal to F upon S. Now, only if this condition is satisfied, that the interest rate parity theory exists. Now, what are those abbreviations? Okay, RH, it stands for the rate in home country. RF stands for the rate in foreign country. F stands for forward rate, and S stands for the spot rate. So if LHS is equal to RHS, interest rate parity theory will exist. In that case, it does not matter in which country you invest or from which country you borrow, because eventually in either country the return what you will be getting will be the same. Now, to understand this, we'll take up an example. Let's say the question given here is Mr. X wants to invest rupees 60 lakhs in fixed deposit. The interest rate in India is 6%. The interest rate in US is 10%. The spot exchange rate between India and US is $1 is equal to rupees 60. The question states that using the interest rate parity theory, okay, where should Mr. X invest? So we have to find where should he invest, whether you should invest in India or in US, but using the interest rate parity theory. Now, in order to solve that, we will directly use the formula which was given. So I'll first note down the formula. The formula was 1 plus RH upon 1 plus RF is equal to F upon S. Now, in order to solve this particular sum, okay, the rate in the home currency or in the home country was 6%, so that is nothing but 0.06, whereas that in the foreign, that is US, was 0.10. The forward rate is not given, so we have to find the forward rate first of all. The spot exchange rate given is rupees 60. So if we further solve it, this comes up to 1.06 upon 1.1 is equal to f upon 60. Now if we cross multiply it, okay, if we cross multiply it, that will be 1.06 into 60 upon 1.1, we will get the forward rate. So here the forward rate while multiplying and cross multiply, it will come up to 57.82. Now this is very important. This is the forward exchange rate that we have got. Now to understand further, now in which country should we invest? So we'll take the example of either country. Okay, we'll take the example of either country. We'll take both the examples. If in India he was supposed to invest, then he would have invested the entire 60 lakhs. Let's take this example is based on 1 year. So after 1 year, he would have got an interest or at the rate of 6%, so which comes to 3,60,000. So after 1 year, the total amount after maturity, he would have got 63,60,000. That is in the case he would have invested in India. Now if he would have opted to invest the same amount in US, so first he would have to convert 60 lakhs into dollars, and the spot exchange rate at that time was rupees 60. So in that case he would have got $1 lakh if he would have invested 60 lakhs at the rate of 60 per dollar in US. Now again, if you take that example that the year it's going to be for 1 year, so after 1 year he would get interest at the rate of 10%, which will come up to 10,000. So at the end of 1 year he would have got $1,10,000. Now when he brings this amount back to India after 1 year, the forward rate which is given is 57.82. So when he converts this amount into rupees, the sum amounted to exactly 63,60,000. So in this case it doesn't matter, as per the IRP it already stated, it doesn't matter in whichever country you invest, at the end the amount which will be coming up will always be the same. Now to check the efficiency of this particular theory, it has stated a very important point that the interest rate differential was always equal to or approximate equal to forward premium or discount. Now according to this particular sum, the forward rate is 57.82, whereas the spot exchange rate is 60. So in this case the currency after 1 year is going through forward discount. So now according to this particular formula where interest rate differential is equal to the forward premium or discount, the interest rate differential in the sum, we can say that it is, in US it was 10%, in India it is 6. So the difference between the interest rate is 4%. So now we need to calculate the forward discount what was given in this sum. So in order to find that, the formula that will apply will be, since it is a forward discount, the formula will be spot minus the forward discount upon spot into 100. So now by solving this, the spot exchange rate was 60. So 60 minus 57.82 upon 60 into 100, this amount will sum up to 6.5 0.63%. Therefore, I can say that the interest rate differential is approximately equal to the forward discount, thus stating IRP theory true. Thus, under this case, arbitrage gain is not possible, and under IRP, thus stating that the investor can invest in any of the country. Okay, so finally we can state that Mr. X can invest in either India or US, as there won't be any arbitrage gain and the return amount from both the countries will be the same. Okay, now we'll take up another example. Okay, in the second example, it's given that Mr. Y wants to invest rupees 1 lakh in fixed deposit. The interest rate in India is now 8%. The interest rate in US is 10%. The spot exchange rate is $1 is equal to rupees 50. And again, using the interest rate parity theory, decide where should Mr. Y invest. Okay, so again, according to the previous sum, we'll start off by using the formula. The formula is 1 plus RH upon 1 plus RF, which should be equal to forward upon the spot. RH stands for the rate in home country, which is India, so it is 1 plus 0.08 upon 1 plus RF is the rate in foreign, which is the US, so we'll take it as 0.10. Forward exchange is the rate that we need to find. Spot is already given as 50. So if you solve it further, we get it at 1.08 upon 1.1 is equal to F upon 50. So now if we cross multiply, we will get the rate of forward, which is equal to 49.09. Okay, so our forward rate what we got is 49.09 after calculating the first part. Now we will check if Mr. Y had to invest it in India, what amount he would have got at the end of 1 year, and if the same amount was supposed to be invested in US, then what amount he would get at the end of 1 year. So in India, if he had to invest, he would have directly invested rupees 1 lakh. At the end of 1 year, he would have got interest at the rate of 8%, which comes to 8,000. So at the end of 1 year, he would have got an amount of 1,08,000. If the same thing he had to invest in US, he would have first converted rupees 1 lakh into dollars. The spot exchange rate was 50. So when you divide it, he would have got $2,000. Now again, after 1 year, he would have got interest at the rate of 10%, which would have been $200 of 2,000. So he would have got in total $2,200. Now after 1 year, when he bought this amount into India, he would have converted with the forward rate, which is 49.09, and he would have got an amount which is exactly amounting to 1,08,000. So again, in this particular case under IRP, it said that whether you invest in India or you invest in US, okay, the rate of return at the end of the year or after the end of the period will remain same. So there won't be any issue to find out where to invest and where to borrow from. Now after that, we'll just check the formula that the interest rate differential is always equal or approximately equal to the forward premium or discount. Now in this case the spot exchange rate was 50 but the forward rate is 49.09. So again here we have a forward discount rate. Okay, the interest rate differential in this particular sum is, in US the interest rates were 10%, whereas in India it was 8%. So the interest rate differential is 2%. Now in order to find the forward discount, okay, the formula that we would have used will be spot minus forward upon spot. So which would have given us 50 minus 49.09 upon 50, which would approximately turn out to be 2%. So here in this case again the interest rate differential would have been approximate equal to the forward discount rate. Hence the interest rate parity theory states true. Thus Mr. Y can invest in either India or US. Okay, now we'll take one last problem based on interest rate parity. Now Mr. Z again wants to invest rupees 5 lakhs in fixed deposit. The interest rate in India is 12%. The interest rate in US is 7%. The spot exchange rate is $1 is equal to 65. And again using the interest rate parity, decide where should Mr. Z invest. So again using the similar formula, 1 plus RH upon 1 plus RF is equal to F upon S. So here using this formula again we'll find the forward rate. So 1 plus RH, the rate in India is 0.12, that in US it is 0.07. Forward rate we don't know and the spot exchange rate is 65. So if we solve further we get 1.12 upon 1.07 is equal to F upon 65. If you cross multiply you will get the forward exchange rate as 68.037. Okay. Now again we will see that if we invest in India what would be the amount, and if we invest in US and what will be the amount after maturity. So if in India you would have supposed to invest this, he would have invested the entire 5 lakhs rupees. At the end of 1 year he would get an interest of 60,000 which is at 12%. So the total amount at the end of 1 year you would have got 5,60,000. Now the same thing if he had to convert, if he had to invest in US, he would have invested or converted rupees 5 lakhs at the rate of 65. So he would have got $7,692. Again he would have also got an interest at 7% which would have comes approx to $538. So at the end of 1 year he would have got $8,230. This dollar he would have again brought back to India, so he had to convert it according to the forward rate. The forward rate would have been 68.037. So when you multiply you would have again got an amount which is approximately equals to 5,60,000. So again in whichever country he would have invested, the final amount or the final return that he would have got would have been the same. Okay, now to just check the viability of the theory, so we'll just use the formula that interest rate differential is approximately equal to forward premium or discount. Now in this particular sum, the spot exchange rate was 65. However, the forward rate is 68.037. Hence, there is a forward premium. So the interest rate differential in this sum is, in India it was 12%, whereas in US it was 7%. So there is an interest rate differential of 5%. Now in order to find the forward premium, the formula that we would have used will be forward minus spot upon spot into 100. So here the forward rate is 68.037 minus 65 upon 65 into 100, and that amount would have given us, when you cross multiply, we would have got the value as 4.7, which is again approximately equal to 5%. Thus, again in this case, Mr. Z can invest in either India or US, since the rate of return at the end of 1 year for both the country is same. Okay, to sum it up, we can say that under interest rate parity theory, in an efficient market, interest rate differential will always be equal to forward premium or discount. Thus, there will not be any extra gain by arbitrage. But what if the interest rate parity theory does not fulfill, it is not true while solving? If LHS, using the formula, if the LHS is not equal to the RHS, then how will a person decide in which country he will invest and in which country will he borrow from? So if under interest rate parity theory, whether you invest in the home country or you invest in the foreign country, the rate of return remains the same. But if the interest rate parity theory does not hold true, then from which country will he invest and from which country will he borrow? So for that, we again go back to the original formula, that is 1 plus RH upon 1 plus RF, which is equal to forward upon the spot. We just cross multiply this particular formula, so we get 1 plus RH is equal to forward upon spot into 1 plus RF. Now we have LHS and we have the RHS. So now this is very important. Number one, if your LHS is more than RHS, so if the rate of currency in home is more, or the rate of interest in your home country is more than that of the foreign, you will invest in home and you will borrow from outside. And the vice versa of that, if your LHS is less than your RHS, then you will borrow from your home country and invest in the foreign country. So finally, to sum it up, I can say that wherever the interest rate is more, you invest, and wherever the interest rate is less, you borrow. So this sums up your entire interest rate parity theory.
Okay, now we need to go through various types of interest rate parity. Now, the very first type of interest rate parity is known as the covered interest rate parity. According to the covered interest rate theory, the exchange rate forward premiums nullify the interest rate differential between the two sovereigns or two different countries. In other words, covered interest rate theory says that the difference between interest rate in two countries is nullified by the spot or forward currency premium so that the investor could not earn an arbitrage profit. Example, let us assume there's a company known as Yahoo, the US based multinational, has to pay the European employees in euro in a month's time. Yahoo Inc. can do this in many ways, one of which is given below. Number 1. Yahoo can buy euro forward a month, that is 30 days, to lock in the exchange rate. Then it can invest this money in dollars for 30 days, after which it must convert the dollars to euros. This is known as covering, as now Yahoo company will have no exchange rate fluctuation risk. Secondly, Yahoo can also convert the dollars to euros now at the spot exchange rate. Then it can invest the euro money it has obtained in the European bond, that is in euros, for 1 month, which will have an equivalently loan of euro for 30 days. Then Yahoo can pay the obligation in euro after 1 month. Then Yahoo can pay the obligation in euro after 1 month. Now, under this model, if Yahoo company is sure that it will earn an interest, it may convert fewer dollars to euro today. The reason for this being the euro's growth via interest earned. It is known as covering because by converting the dollars to euro at the spot rate, Yahoo is eliminating the risk of exchange rate fluctuation. This is known as the covered interest rate parity, where your risk is being covered by investing in some other. This is known as the covered interest rate parity theory. The second type of interest rate parity is known as the uncovered interest rate parity theory. Now, uncovered interest rate theory says that the expected appreciation or depreciation of a particular currency is nullified by lower or higher interest. Example, in the same example which was given earlier of covered interest rate, the other method that Yahoo company could implement was to invest the money in dollars and change it for euro at the time of payment after 1 month. This method is known as uncovered, as the risk of exchange rate fluctuation is imminent in such transactions. Now, let us go through the implications of IRP theory. Number 1. If IRP theory holds, then it can negate the possibility of arbitrage. It means that even if investors invest in domestic or foreign currency, the return on investment will be the same as if the investor had originally invested in the domestic currency. Second, when the domestic interest rate is below foreign interest rates, the foreign currency must trade at a forward discount. This is applicable for prevention of foreign currency arbitrage. Third, if a foreign currency does not have a forward discount, or when the forward discount is not large enough to offset the interest rate advantage, arbitrage opportunity is available for the domestic investors. So domestic investors can sometimes benefit from foreign investment. Fourth, when domestic rates exceed the foreign interest rates, the foreign currency must trade at a forward premium. This is again to offset the prevention of domestic country arbitrage. And lastly, when the foreign currency does not have a forward premium, or when the forward premium is not large enough to nullify the domestic country's advantage, an arbitrage opportunity will be available for the foreign investors. So the foreign investors also can gain profit by investing in domestic market. This concludes the interest rate parity theory.
Okay, now to sum it up, we come to the end of the second part of the second module. But before putting an end, okay, we will take a couple of MCQ exercise. Let us see what questions are available under the second part of the second module. Okay, number 1, the purchasing power parity theory was developed by Dash, Mark Twain, F.W. Taylor, Gustav Cassel, and Alfred Marshall. Second, the purchasing power parity theory explains the determination of long-term equilibrium exchange rate based on dash price level of two countries. The options are absolute, relative, fixed, and flexible. Third, the interest rate parity connects interest, foreign exchange rate, and dash exchange rate. Read the question once. Figure out what might be the correct answers. I'll give you a couple of minutes and then we will discuss the right answers. Okay, now let us discuss the answers. The purchasing power parity theory was developed by Gustav Cassel. That's the correct answer. The purchasing power parity theory explains the determination of long-term equilibrium exchange rate based on relative price level of two countries. The third one, the interest rate parity connects interest, the foreign exchange rate, and the spot exchange rate. I hope everyone should have got these answers right. Now we jump on to the last part of the MCQ exercise. Again, 3 questions are given. Number 1, the PBV theory is based on the law of dash. Options are 0 price, 3 price, 2 price, and 1 price. Second, according to dash interest rate theory, the exchange rate forward premium nullifies the interest rate differential between the two sovereigns. The options are uncovered, covered, undercovered, and overcovered. And the last, dash is the activity of buying shares or currency in one financial market and selling it at a profit in another. The options are arbitrage, hedging, forwarding, and spot. Again, read the question once, figure out what might be the correct answer for these MCQs. I'll give you a couple of minutes and thereafter we will discuss the right answers. Okay, let us see what might be the right answers for all these MCQs. Number 1, the PBB theory is based on the law of one price. According to covered interest rate theory, the exchange rate premium, that is the discount, nullifies the interest rate differential between the two sovereigns. And last one, dash is the activity of buying shares or currency in one financial market and selling it at a profit in another. The answer for that is arbitrage. Arbitrage is the activity of buying shares or currency in one financial market and selling it at a profit in another. So these are a few MCQs under the second part of the second module. With this, we can conclude that our second module has been completed.
With this, Module 2 of International Finance PGDFM Semester 2 comes to an end. Okay, this is the question bank of a Module 2 of International Finance. For further queries, you can contact me through email or through WhatsApp. The details for both have been given on the screen. Okay, so stay tuned for the next video for your module 3. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.